you don't know when he's going to be able to play and when he's not going to be able to play. He would certainly be if there was another season coming up in his future, he'd have shut this whole thing down a while ago and try to get his body. So he's pretty much fallen apart. So we'll talk about that as well. But we all want progress to be kind of linear. Where every game it just gets a little bit better and a little bit better, and by the end of the year, all the young guys are performing as
we want them. Right.
It's just that nice up. Steady line graph or whatever. But, anybody who's ever been around young people, anybody who's got kids, I've got a couple kids, it's never a straight line.
Right.
It's always up and down. And then you hope the average is this nice upward curve. But when you're talking about 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, comprising the bulk of your important players, you're never going to be. I mean, there's so many times I look at my own kids and I like, why are you doing this now?
Right.
When yesterday you did this, you were doing it right yesterday. You're doing it wrong now. It's the same thing. You're the same kid, but I'm getting a different result. It's like that on a professional level with young NBA players.
What's underestimated, I think, is that value. We talk so much about we want to see the young guys on the floor, and we want to see them finish the games, and we want to make sure if there's a critical moment or a critical stage, they have to be on the court. But I think part of that learning process is also mental. So much of that is what's going on upstairs. And D'Angelo even said it. If you remember earlier in the season, he had said something to the effect of he's not sure what to work on. Like he's not sure what to do.
He doesn't know enough to know what he doesn't know.
And that, in a nutshell, really just explains the youth. So we can be critical to Byron Scott. We can be critical to the young players. We can be critical to the front office. The reality is it's going to take time. And when you have somebody who's 20 years old or 21 years old or 22 years old, just like you were just referring to your kids, they're not going to get what you're saying today. It might take a year, 2 years, 3 years for it to finally kind of dawn in their head and say, "Oh, okay, that makes sense."
And that's part of what before the game Byron was talking about how long it takes before you really understand who you have as a player. What kind of NBA player young guys are going to be? Are they going to be all-stars? Are they going to be solid rotation guys? Are they going to be superstars? And some guys you can LeBron, the minute they step on the floor. Anthony Davis, it was pretty clear pretty early in his career that he was going to be something unique, something totally special, and is going to be a dominant player in the NBA. Other guys, you just don't know. I mean, we don't know how good Jordan Clarkson's going to be, how well he would perform on a great team. We don't know that about Julius Randle, where his ceiling is, and all this other stuff. And it really does take, and this is separate from how good you think a Byron is doing, his work as a coach. This is all separate from that. He's right about this. And other coaches will tell you the same thing. Your prime doesn't change just because you get into the league at 19. And your prime is your prime not just because you've reached physical maturity. It's that place where your mental ability and your knowledge lines up perfectly with that physical talent.
Great way of putting it. That's a great way of putting it. I mean, Anthony Davis, who I think you and I would both agree is top 3, top 5, at the most top 5 in the NBA, he hasn't won a playoff game to this point of his career. Not that he's had a long career, but it just shows
his team's a hot mess this year.
It takes time. A couple times you guys have referred to Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant when it was still the Sonics and then moved over to the Thunder. They didn't just start winning automatically all of a sudden. That's part of the growing pain. And I'm watching these games and I'm saying to myself, I take away the Byron aspect out of it because really the situation Byron's in, I don't care who's the head coach. They're not going to win that many more games specifically because of who's on that roster. But I'm looking more at these players and saying, okay, is D'Angelo Russell going to learn that if I don't come out and play, a guy like Darren Collison and a guy like Rajon Rondo can absolutely destroy me in the first quarter and we're playing uphill the rest of the way? Is he going to learn that even a Jose Calderon, and I mean, there are players in the NBA that you don't think of right off the bat are elite, but they're still NBA basketball players, and they just have that experience.
And I have a thought based on what you're saying and a potential explanation particularly as it goes to D'Angelo. And I know we spend an enormous amount of time, just as we used to sit and talk about Kobe at every moment, because really, in the end, the way the Lakers are going, it's going to be D'Angelo Russell who is the catalyst for all of these things. That's the type of point guard he's supposed to be. That's the type of system they're kind of evolving into.
Yeah.
And just as it was, Kobe was going to be the guy who sets the tone for the entire team and how he comes out to play. It's the same kind of thing with D'Angelo. And there are some things about his college career earlier in the season, the way he was playing, that I think do get a little bit to what you were just talking about, Alan. We'll talk about that when we come back. 877-710-ESPN is the number. State Farm Postgame Show. State Farm, we exist to assist on ESPN LA.
Rondo dribbles past Gay. Picks up his dribble. Bounce pass down low. Stolen by Kelly. Nice defensive play by Ryan. Gets it ahead to Lou Williams. Down low. Julius Randle now outside on the left wing. Randle spins inside all the way to the rim. Puts it up and in. Nice shot. He did a little pirouette right in front of the rim and put it up and in. 18 points. Sacramento.
That was the McDonald's defensive play of the game. McDonald's, I'm loving it, and it comes from Ryan Kelly. We had a couple options tonight. Alan Sliwa sitting across from me, Brian Kamenetsky. When you have an opportunity to give Ryan Kelly the McDonald's defensive play of the game,
no question about it.
We do have, and this is how good of work that George, our producer, does back there. He found one from Marcelo Huertas, who has been great over the last month or so, but is not somebody that we look at and say is routinely making fantastic defensive plays. So I wish we could give it to them both. But tonight, Alan, it's Ryan Kelly.
It's just Ryan Kelly
Kelly's
on his
night
own.
to shine. Excuse me, 877-710-ESPN is the number. 106-98, the final score. The Lakers lose. 14-54.
I want you to expand on what you were saying before we went to the break there. I don't know if you have another sponsorship or anything like that coming up.
They can all wait. That can all wait. Sacramento over the Lakers. An interesting night for them. Kind of a balanced, poor effort, I guess, if you want to call it that. 12 points for Jordan Clarkson, 14 for Russell, 14 for Randall, 12 for Nance, 17 for Lou Williams, 10 for Robert Sacre. Actually, he had his best game of the season by a lot.
Didn't miss a shot, went 5 of 5, 5 rebounds.
So six Lakers in double figures, but other than Lou Williams, who wasn't effective from the floor but got to the line a bunch, it was just a raggedy offensive night all around for the Lakers. Huertas turned the ball over a lot and all that. And what you get is
even
a
D'Angelo.
Game. Yeah, tough
5
night
turnovers.
Sure. 32-15 after the first quarter, and the Lakers playing uphill the rest of the way. We were talking, and this is what you were getting at, Alan, about that inconsistency with D'Angelo Russell, whether he's coming out and taking everybody seriously at the beginning, if he's got that intensity at the beginning of the game that he has at the end. And I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure anybody can know the answer to that other than D'Angelo himself. But I do think he's not a guy. What was the criticism of him at the beginning of the season when you compare him to somebody like Emmanuel Mudiay or Russell Westbrook or guys like that?
He doesn't have that explosive first step. I'm getting to the basket. Everybody get out of the way.
It's not attack. It's not explosive. It's not super big athleticism. Everything looks so slow. He looks so deliberate. He looks like he can't play at the NBA level. He looked, all that kind of stuff. If you go back to his one season at Ohio State, he didn't get off to a great start. He's a deliberate guy. He feels stuff out, and as he started to feel it out over the course of his career at Ohio State, short as it was, it got a lot better really quickly. In the NBA, he's the rare rookie that the coaching staff has been trying to speed up all season rather than slow down. It's usually almost always slow down, take your time. That's how it is with Julius Randle. It's not that way with Russell. So I do wonder if there is that sort of feeling out process where he doesn't come out of the gate super aggressive in terms of how he orchestrates the team, how he runs it.
He's kind of getting his feel, looking at what the defense is doing, seeing his...
Exactly. And then as the game goes on, because he's had some nice fourth quarters, nice second halves, he gets more comfortable.
And he looked a lot more comfortable in the final 6 minutes of the game compared to the first 6 minutes of the game. So there could be something
It could be that. It could also be that they just had the urgency of being, we're down 10, we got to fix this now.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. And I don't want to make excuses for him. There's a lot of stuff that he needs to learn how to do. There's no question. I just, you asked that, you talked about it that way, and it made me think, well, maybe this is just sort of a little bit of who he is. And then the whole thing, of course, looks different. I mean, Jordan Clarkson was 5 of 16.
I was going to say
Russell was 4 of 9. They, as a team, what were they? 4 of 26, 5 of 26 from 3-point range. A couple of those shots go in early, and the whole complexion of the game changes.
And certainly there isn't one person to point the finger at. So if you're listening, we're not trying to say D'Angelo Russell is why the Lakers lost.
No, you need all your fingers, and you need to point them at everyone.
And like you mentioned, Clarkson's had a couple bad shooting nights. I don't worry too much about Jordan Clarkson. I don't even know if I'm concerned with D'Angelo Russell. I think these guys are going to be fine. Whether the next game they could blow up against Phoenix Suns, each have 25 points, and D'Angelo can have 7, 8 assists, and we just kind of forget about it. But for the last 2 games, we're a little bit more critical looking at just the consistency of these 2 specific players.
Just hasn't been there.
Was a good example.
Hasn't been there.
Right.
Michael in L.A., you're on the State Farm Postgame Show. Michael, you there? Going once?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
hello.
Oof, that was close.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I just came from the game. I've had season tickets since they opened up, and I gotta say, why is Julius Randle getting the pass?
Why is he what? Can you say that
Say that again?
Why is Randle getting a pass?
Is he getting a pass?
Why his IQ, his lack, he doesn't flash, he doesn't know how to play without the ball. If this Laker product right now, I would like my money back. I mean, 4 years of this already.
Michael, what did you expect out of these guys coming into the season? Julius Randle is a rookie playing at the NBA level. He can't pick and roll. I mean, he doesn't have an outside shot. He's learning at it, but he's also averaging a double-double this season.
Then he should be in the D League.
No, he shouldn't be in the D League. Michael, stop. He's averaging a double-double against NBA competition, and you want to send him to the D League because he doesn't move without the ball as well as you'd like? Come on.
If Michael was making a case that, hey, the team as a whole isn't playing together, or I wish from a roster standpoint, take this guy out or this guy. I mean, but to just key in on one player on this roster and to key on.
I'm not doing that.
Of course he's flawed. He's finishing his first season.
I mean to say that he's getting the pass. He's doing things out there. He pouts. His energy level is based on his offensive success.
Do you mean, Michael, that just there's too much criticism towards other players? Because I don't know if Julius Randle is getting a free pass, but I think maybe sometimes what happens is we're looking at this stat line tonight. Perfect example, plays 31 minutes, 14 points, 11 rebounds. Are you saying that, all right, we're keying in on D'Angelo Russell, we're keying in some of these other players?
No, I'm saying Julius Randle doesn't know how to play without the ball. He doesn't play defense. There's different types of defense. There's on-the-ball defense, there's help defense, there's backside defense.
Right, and Michael...
And you can see that he's gone from AAU to college to pros, and the problem is the Lakers have a team where their players are learning to be professionals as opposed to professionals learning to be champions.
Well, Michael, yes, of course, and thanks for the call. What did you expect? I know you're a season ticket holder, and you're tired, and you're frustrated, and all that. And yeah, it'd be great if the Lakers could get fully developed products out of the draft that are instantly great. Those players tend not to exist.
Yeah, maybe that's the best way of explaining it, is the expectation was just too high, unrealistic.
Of course Julius Randle is a guy who's learning how to play at the NBA, learning on the job in ways that James Worthy didn't have to, that Magic Johnson didn't. First of all, he's not as good as those guys.
Right.
What did you expect? He's having a very good... I just listed, and we tend to list almost every time, things he can improve on. But the idea that he's having a good year, you have to be pleased with it. He's a NBA rookie averaging a double-double. That's not easy. So I don't know what he would have expected.
Yeah, Randall's not one player that I've thought of too much this year saying, man, there's going to be some issues with Julius Randle a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. He's one of the few players that I don't have too much concern over. 877-710-ESPN. Byron Scott coming up next from the Lakers post-game press conference. We'll bring that to you. Brian Kamenetsky, Alan Slewa, ESPN LA.
saying goodbye to number 24.
Golden State's Klay Thompson is a big fan of Kobe's work ethic.
Obviously, I appreciate his high-flying dunks and his last-second shots. As a player, I really appreciate how he maximized potential. He literally committed everything he had to this game and inspires a lot of us to do the same. It wasn't just on the court. It was taking care of his body. It was stretching. It was weightlifting. He did everything he possibly could to have his 20-year career.
We've been the home for the Mamba.
Hey, it's Kobe Bryant, and you're listening to the home of the Lakers.
And we always will be. ESPN LA 710.
Kobe, the final season. Steph Curry, Golden State Warriors.
He demanded greatness. He was very open about that. I think he inspired my leadership qualities more than the actual game, just the way that he came out every day with that competitiveness, that fire. It was all about winning. That was what he wanted to do, and he obviously won a lot.
Continuing coverage of Kobe Bryant's final season begins weekday mornings with Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern, on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Rebound grab by Lou Williams. Williams ahead to Huertas. Lay it up and in. Great play by Huertas and a very nice pass by Lou.
That was the drive of the game, brought to you by Subaru of Santa Monica. Stop by Subaru of Santa Monica today and experience the new one-price policy. Learn more about it at SubaruSantaMonica.com, an LA Car Guide dealership. State Farm postgame show. State Farm, we exist to assist. Lakers lose 106-98, the final score at Staples Center Tuesday night. They fall now to 14-54 on the season. Sacramento improves to 26-40. Things aren't so good over there either. An inconsistent night for a lot of players on the Lakers, some decent stat lines, but overall a disappointing night where the Lakers fall behind early and they can't get themselves out of the hole. Brian Kamenetsky, joined now by Andy Kamenetsky and Alan Sliwa. Let's go to Lewis in West L.A. Take that, Sabrosa. Lewis, you're on the State Farm postgame show.
What's up, guys? That's what happens with a young team, man. You guys are going to be up, they're going to be down, and it's all based on matchups. And it's their preparation before the games that they got to learn how to handle, because you could tell that they have done no scouting, and when they do, they're not taking it serious because they don't take their matchup and actually pay attention to detail. They don't know who's strong going right, who's strong going left. When we go to double, where does the help come from? They just don't know the basic fundamental IQ of the game, and they're just out there on raw talent, and you can see that there is no IQ whatsoever on the defensive end of the basketball game. And I think the offensive end is just basic offenses, and they're allowing their natural talent to just carry them. And it's only going to get you so far.
And, Lewis, thanks for the call. Andy, obviously we've all sat and watched this a lot.
Some would say too much.
Look, we could all be coal miners. There are a lot of worse gigs, ditch diggers.
Of course. On the plus side, you can't pick up some of these games inside the mine.
Of course, we could all be hosting the Golden State Warriors post-game show, too. There's an upside.
You could be a billionaire who gets to choose whatever game you watch.
League pass. We don't even need to be a billionaire. But, guys, particularly on the defensive side, and what Lewis is saying is he's exactly right. They do make mistakes on going over a screen, going under a screen. Do I need to double here if it means leaving that shooter alone? Those kinds of decisions they make incorrectly all the time. And, Andy, I know you've made the point, though, when you have this many young players on a team surrounded by veterans who aren't very good defenders either, Lou Williams, Kobe Bryant at this point in his career, it's hard to expect anything that much different as much as we want them to improve.
No, heading into this season, I said from day one, if this team was going to have any shot whatsoever at bucking the odds and being better than people like you or me or Alan expected, it was going to have to be on the offensive end. They were going to have to find a way to mesh offensively and bring out the best in each other, because defensively, their ceiling is exceptionally low. Their ceiling is basically 6 feet underground. I mean, they're just the potential for this team.
That's where they put dead people.
Yes. Dead people, or in this case, Laker defenders. I mean, they don't have the roster for it. I mean, Brandon Bass is probably the best defender on this team, and he didn't play tonight. But if Brandon Bass is your best defender, I don't mean this disrespectfully to Brandon Bass, but your team isn't good defensively.
And he's a guy who is a solid defender because he understands it. He's worked at it. He's a veteran.
But he's not an impact defender.
No, not. He's never been thought of that way as a game changer on that.
No, he's a solid defender.
He's not Tony Allen.
No, he can help a good defense, but he's not going to elevate a defense himself.
And it gives you an idea of the value of experience, which is something that these guys just don't have.
I was going to say it's the combination of everything. It's the combination of Kobe's not trying to lock down defenders the way, or offensive players the way he used to. Roy Hibbert, probably at any point of his career, this is the most, from a liability standpoint, he's doing nothing in the paint. And that just has to do with where the NBA has gone and where he has gone in the last couple of years.
Particularly in transition. And in the half court, he's just being assaulted from every direction. I feel bad for the guy.
And then take 20 years old, 21 years old, just players that don't have the experience. So I think it comes back to what you said earlier, Brian. The expectation, what was that expectation? Because there are a lot of times that we maybe think, you know what, the Lakers won 3 out of 5 games. Maybe they're going to be okay here, but we have to kind of remind ourselves that they're young and they're old. It's the worst combination you can have.
They're yold. They're a very yoldy team. Nexon has the coach's interview after the game. Andy, you were there and you listened to Byron Scott address the media following tonight's loss.
When it comes to these slow starts, given that it's Julius's first full year, D'Angelo's first full year, and Jordan's first full year playing regular minutes every game, is there any concern at all that a rookie wall could be coming into the play? As far as their energy?
I haven't thought about it, but yeah, I mean, that could be a possibility because like you said, I mean, we're at game number 68. Most of these guys have played now 2 college seasons instead of just 1. That could be a possibility. The other one is just, again, just a little bit of a lack of focus when you start some of these games. And, again, like I said, that's one of the reasons I was just talking about just keeping them in there as starters because they got to figure this out together, how to come with that energy from the start and not play, with that sense of, desperateness, when you're down. You got to figure out a way to do that from the start of the game.
How much did that also go into play with having to finish it off?
What do you mean?
What you're saying about having to continue to play to try to pick themselves out.
Oh, you talking about like towards the end of the game? Well, the same thing. I mean, that's a big part of growing up as well. Finishing games and finishing strong, winning games when you have an opportunity to win games. Like I said the other day, if Lou and Marcelo are playing great and they're not playing and they're playing poorly, then I'm gonna leave the guys in there who are playing great. So it's kind of one of those catch-22s. They gotta continue to play hard and play well, and I know they can. But I am very cognizant of the fact that I want them to be out there 25, 30, 35 minutes a game.
What did you think about that lineup with, Larry and Julius playing together as the 2 forwards? Well, you tried it a couple times tonight. What did you see from that, and what do you think about going forward with it?
Well, I like that because I think they're both pretty versatile as far as guarding 3s and 4s. It just kind of depends on who we're playing, which guy would guard which, but offensively, I think the only thing it really does for us offensively is it hurts us as far as spacing, just a tad, because Larry's not that 3-point shooting threat yet. But what I did like about it is the activity that those 2 guys bring. And again, Larry is a part of that group of young guys that we want to play a lot, as much as possible. He's still kind of on a minute restriction. But with those 3, together, or those 4 guys together, again, they got to learn how to play together. So I want him out there as much as I can right now at the 3 spot on the defensive end, and sometimes he's at the 4 spot on the offensive end.
Has Larry taken the 3 ball during practice, or is that just something that you're going to work on over the summer?
He's done it during practice. I just don't think he's comfortable doing it right now. He'll do it in a desperate situation, but shot clock running down or something like that. But it's something that we're definitely going to work on that in his ball handling this summer, because I think he has the range. I've seen it in practice where he has the range to shoot that on a regular basis, but he has to feel comfortable doing it.
Would you encourage him to do it this season in any regard? Just
Well, like I told him the other day, it's the first time he's ever had a coach tell him if he doesn't shoot open shots, I'm going to take him out of the game. So I think that's pretty encouraging, right? Kind of encouraging to shoot shots.
Yeah, but specifically the 3 ball is what I'm saying.
If he has an open one and he feels comfortable shooting it, I don't have a problem with it.
Brian, do you see Nick back in the rotation this year?
I don't know yet, because, again, I want to try Larry at the 3. So I don't know how that go as far as Nick being in there. Meta's done a pretty good job when Kobe's out. So my plan was to play Anthony a bunch at that position, but since he's hurt, this is, to me right now, the next best thing is to put Larry there and get him some experience at it.
How much of it is what those guys can do and what Nick wasn't doing?
Well, I don't know what those guys can do yet together, but some of it has to do with what they can do and what I want to see them try to do, opposed to what Nick can't do.
All right, that was Byron Scott following tonight's loss at Staples Center. Nexen Tire provides high-quality tires with the best warranty in the business. Learn more about one of America's fastest-growing tire brands at NexenTireUSA.com. Guys, we've been critical of Byron and his choices over the course of the season and what they've done that with an eye towards the future. I think Andy and Alan, it's fair to say. But with that in mind, it was interesting to hear Byron talk about how much they are going to take this opportunity with Anthony Brown out and Nick Young functionally out of the rotation to see what Larry Nance can do at the 3, playing next to Julius Randle as opposed to behind him. And so, guys, I think that's a positive, forward-looking thing to do. So when it happens, we should point it out.
Well, it's also too it's the most realistic way to think about Randle and Nance playing together, because other than in a pinch against teams going small, you really can't go with Randle at the 4-5. It just doesn't really work. Neither one of them, even by small ball standards, is really a center that you can play small ball 5 for any extended period of time. But Larry Nance, I think, does have the athleticism and the versatility,
the length
that you can look for in a 3. He's got a lot of good defensive instincts. He's not a truly natural fit,
right?
He
might not be able to play it all the time.
Right,
but some lineups.
I was going to say he's not unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. Neither Nance and Randle are unnatural at the 5. Nance is not unnatural at the 3.
And Alan, I think some of these things too depend on. Okay, you have Nance, maybe who's not a perfect 3 with Randle's kind of an undersized but mobile 4. And who's the 5 next year? Is it a young, athletic guy who can guard a few different positions, can guard 4s and 5s, can switch and play the pick and roll and stuff like that? And now you're starting to get into that little bit of the sort of positionless thing that Golden State does. So there are options, and it's nice at least to see them trying combinations that might have an impact next year as opposed to this year.
When they started Nance and they benched Julius Randle for that stretch, Nance was actually playing really well. Mm-hmm. Really well in the sense where he was almost playing similar to how Randle was playing with those double-doubles. Tonight, he had good minutes, ended up with 12 points and 9 rebounds, but when he went down with that injury, we saw a lot less of Larry Nance. And it was also very cautiously saying, look, if he's injured, don't put him in. This is the best opportunity to see these two guys play together, because I think we all feel pretty confident that these two players can be players in the NBA for a number of years. If you can find a way to put them in either 3-4, or there's going to be games where they play against the Warriors and Draymond Green is center, maybe then you can have that power forward and center combination. I love seeing it. Hopefully you get to see it more through the rest of the season.
And if you're looking for guys who can help add some defensive structure, Larry Nance is absolutely one of those guys on this roster and certainly going forward. 877-710-ESPN is the number. Break down a little bit more about tonight's game and look forward to Friday's math contest against the Phoenix Suns. That's when we come back. Kamenetsky Brothers, Alan Slewa, State Farm Postgame Show, ESPN LA.
Lakers are only down 12, but they can't trade baskets. Bellinelli to Caspi. Lay it up, can't finish. Rebound Randle. Lakers have a 5-on-4 if they want it. Randle to Lou Williams. Williams back to Randle. Randle to Nance. Slammed up. Perfect passing by the Lakers. Timeout.
12 points, 9 rebounds, an assist, and a steal for Larry Nance in his 25 minutes. 6 of 7 from the floor. That is enough to make him the Fantasy Springs Resort Casino Lakers Player of the Game. Fantasy Springs Resort Casino, located in the beautiful Palm Springs area offers all you need for a fun-filled getaway or complete destination vacation. Whether your fantasy includes luxurious hotel rooms, exciting Vegas-style gambling options, fabulous dining, world-class entertainment, golf, or poolside lounging, you'll find it at Fantasy Springs Resort Casino. Lakers lose 106-98 Tuesday night at Staples Center. They fall to 14-54 on the season. State Farm postgame show. Kamenetsky brothers, Alan Sliwa, and guys, just keeps rolling along. Where do you think,
square wheels?
Yes. Where do you think these slow starts, Andy? Because Alan and I talked about this a lot, and we got some callers were weighing in and all that. It has, if you're going to say one thing about D'Angelo and his performance this year and how he sort of gets the team going, which is his job as a point guard, there have been a lot of slow starts.
Well, I asked Byron after the game, and he conceded it could be a factor. I am wondering if at this point there could be a rookie wall factor in play, because this is the first full season for D'Angelo Russell, first full season for Julius Randle, and in many ways the first full season for Jordan Clarkson, because he's never played this many minutes, this many games in a season. And I do wonder if that could be a factor. And then you combine guys in and out of the lineup like Kobe one game, not there another game, Meta there, not there. There's a lack of consistency that I think could be coming with a lack of experience. And you're listening to KSPN Los Angeles. That may be coming into this.
Could be part of it. But there were some slow starts. And this,
but they also, I mean, look,
the
leading
slow
into
starts
this,
at the
they've been
beginning,
very
yeah.
intense to begin a lot of games.
Right.
I mean, you know, they're young, and even veteran teams can be inconsistent. The teams that won back-to-back championships with Kobe and Pau and Lamar Odom, they often started out quarter slow. They famously
blew off games all the time.
Well, I mean, they famously would come out of halftime dead.
Right. And they were good enough where they can come back and win.
And you know, when you look at it, Alan, and we were talking about this earlier in the show, your reasons for having slow starts at the beginning of the year, I do feel like there was, particularly with D'Angelo, and this makes a ton of sense. He's a rookie, not at 20 years old yet. You know, you're feeling it out. He is the kind of guy who did it at Ohio State. He's done it at the NBA level. He is more of an intellectual type point guard who's going to see, who's going to experience, who's going to kind of feel his way rather than go 1,000 miles an hour like a Russell Westbrook or Emmanuel Mudiay. And so maybe what accounted for slow starts at the beginning of the year might be this thing, and maybe the slow starts now could be some rookie wall issues like Andy talked about with Byron, and Byron conceded. So it may not be the same thing that did it at the beginning of the year. So, you know, when you try to take stock, Alan, of how much are they learning, you you have to put everything into the pot, and you can't assume A always leads to B.
Part of me feels, too, that these players going into each one of these games at this point of the season, this late of the stretch, they know there's only 14 games left. They're not really playing for anything. That there isn't that juice to wake up every single morning and say, man, I got something I'm coming into tonight's game for, where they might do that for a stretch against the Golden State Warriors. They might do that for the stretch.
12:30 national TV game against the Golden State Warriors.
100%. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I just think they're at a point. I'm taking less and less away from the rest of the season. I'm starting to more look at, come next season, if this is an issue, come next season where you're taking Kobe Bryant, you're taking Roy Hibbert, you're taking these guys out of the lineup, there'll be less excuses.
Yeah, and interesting, who will coach the team? Steve in Woodland Hills has his vote. You're on the State Farm postgame show. Steve, you there?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say that I believe that Byron Scott should come back. One, the main reason why we start off so slow is because D'Angelo Russell is not only because he's a rookie point guard, it's because he has Roy Hibbert as his center. D'Angelo Russell is a great passer, and he can't work with somebody as slow as Roy Hibbert. He needs fast-paced players. He needs pick-and-roll action. With Roy Hibbert, he can't do any of that. And I believe that we need to keep Byron Scott for one more season, mainly because we're going to give Kupchak and Buss one more season, and we can't fire somebody this year and then hire somebody and have a new GM come next year and then fire the coach because the new GM is going to want his own coach.
Right, and Steve, that's a great point. I hit the wrong button. I hung up on myself. I did not. I meant to drop Steve, and I turned myself off. That is bad radio.
That is, by the way, that is the single most self-loathing moment I've ever seen in the history of radio.
You know what?
You hung up on yourself.
I am tired of me. It's one thing if they disconnect me.
He unplugged his microphone.
If somebody else pulls the plug on me, quite frankly, that should happen all the time. I did it to myself.
This was a cry.
I said, you know what, Steve? You're the captain
This
now.
was a cry for help.
It was.
That moment was a cry for help.
That's what you do. Andy, on the other hand, interviews Byron Scott, has the mic right in front of his mouth, and then when Byron's turn to talk, he turns around and goes the other way.
Puts the mic back in his pocket.
I hung up on Byron Scott postgame.
Right. And Andy was like, Byron, you can take your answer off the air.
Exactly. I was just like, hey. I asked Byron a question, started responding, hey, chatty Cathy.
I will say a cry for help from me on live radio is still better than me just crying, which is how I spend most of my time. But the point that Steve was making.
Nobody helps.
I don't think they want to. Sad, even my children. Buck up, Dad. Man up, they say. The point Steve was making, though, is a good one. We've talked about that. Like, the timeline thing, this whole Jim Buss, 3 years to the Western Conference Finals. I got news for folks. Barring some sort of miracle, they're not going to the Western Conference Finals next year. Do you want to run Byron out of town if Jeannie's going to then run Jim and Mitch out of the front office next year, and you bring in a situation where the new basketball ops guy might not want the coach that the Lakers just hired a year ago? I know, Andy, this is something that came up this afternoon on Max and Marcellus.
Well, I mean, it depends on who you bring in. And, I mean, if you say, okay, Phil Jackson is the guy that obviously right now is rumored, and Howard Beck from Bleacher Report tweeted out earlier today that one rumor going around NBA circles right now, and Howard is very dialed in, by the way, is that the Lakers may be waiting on letting Byron go a year because they want it to coincide to when Phil Jackson has an opt-out in his contract as president of the Knicks, so they could fire Byron, bring in Phil, and it's all clean in terms of a coaching change. I mean, the other way you could go about doing it is just say you hire Tom Thibodeau, and I'm just throwing that name out there. You bring in a regime that would be happy with Tibbs as your coach.
Right, but except it limits you. If you want to, if the hot young exec that you want, I don't mean in like a physical way, although why not?
Well, it's good recruiting. Charismatic.
Hotties. This is L.A. Who do you want? Hotties. If that,
I don't have patience for ugly people.
You don't. We really don't.
Nor should you.
If you want to have,
we all know
if you
that.
want to have those people, why do you think I cry so much? If you want to have the full range of executives to choose from, you don't want to be in a situation where this guy who you'd love to pry out of the front office in Oklahoma City or San Antonio, where these people seem to grow on trees or whatever, where the guy says, I don't want to be in a situation where I have to work with this coach who's going to run this system. I'm not saying it guaranteed to happen, but there is one formula. If you're somebody who wants Phil to come back under this hypothetical that you guys were talking about, Alan, and that's if you can get Luke Walton away from the Golden State Warriors, now you can sit and wait for Phil, because Phil will happy with Luke.
Isn't the bigger question if they feel Byron Scott is going to be a part of the future of this organization? We get locked on just looking at this upcoming season, but the reality is, if Byron's not going to be a part of the plan for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, maybe Byron just isn't the answer. And I'm not saying there's a specific coach out there who will come in tomorrow and he's going to fill in that role. But one of the things that frustrates me is we sit here and we talk about Byron. Is he the right person for this job? I know we don't know if there's going to be new executives in a year from now. I know we don't know if the same GM is going to be here. But is he the right person? And if he's not, then I think you do make a change.
Well, I mean, look, this is the way I look at it, is unless you are and this, by the way, would be a Genie decision, because obviously Jim Buss and Mitch Kupchak, I think, are not angling to fire themselves. Unless you are,
only I hang up on myself. They don't do that.
Unless you are dead set on it being Phil, in which case also, too, I think you have to start questioning whether or not Jeannie Buss is actually objective enough to be in the position that she's in right now. But unless you're dead set on it being Phil, I would say at this point, you should just make the call to get rid of Jim, get rid of Mitch, and move ahead quicker, because there's no point to keeping a coach that you don't think is the right fit for your foundation moving forward in very important developmental seasons. There's no point in keeping a guy around just for the outside chance.
That can down the road, year in and year out.
Just for the outside chance of bringing back Phil and, and recycling Phil. And I have a lot of issues with the idea of bringing back Phil. I think it's a bad idea. But at some point, you have to just cut the cord on what you think is best for the overall picture as opposed to just trying to get too cute with a very specific one.
All right, let's talk about that when we come back. Also, get ready for the Phoenix game Friday night. That's a 7:30 tip. State Farm postgame show. Kamenetsky Brothers, Alan Slewa, ESPN. I like State Farm postgame show. Kamenetsky Brothers with Alan Slewa. Lakers, well, they lose. 106-98, the final score. 14-54 now the record for the Lakers in the 2015-2016 season. It's not getting better fast. Friday night, guys, a very important game for people who love math. Phoenix Suns come to town. They are 4 games ahead of the Lakers now in the win column. The Lakers have 2 games left against the Suns. They're the only team in the Western Conference that they have any shot at all at catching and perhaps risking their current stranglehold on having the second worst record in the NBA.
I'm following these standings and these scores as if the Lakers are fighting for number 1 or number 2 in the Western Conference. It's sad, but it is very, very true. We were watching in the conference room when you were sitting there. I still want them. Yes, I want the Lakers. It's our team. We love them, but you're looking big picture. You don't want this season to be lost with not attaining one of those top 3 picks. Phoenix Suns, big game, Andy. Believe it or not, I'm still watching these games with a lot of interest.
You know how in Train Spotting, when Ewan McGregor's character has to go down that toilet to eventually come out the other side? That's the Lakers right now with this race to the bottom to try to protect this pick in order to eventually come out a glorious youth foundation.
Does it matter in your metaphor that he's diving into the toilet to get suppositories? Is that an important part?
No.
Does that help the metaphor or does it hurt it? I'm not sure.
Oh, no.
I'm just asking.
Oh, no. Actually, that only enhances the metaphor.
Kobe, who's big on flushing things, would say that it helps.
Oh, there's no question it helps.
You want to flush the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Look, I mean, Renton is diving into the toilet for suppositories. He's that desperate. He is that desperate. The Lakers are desperate.
It was a foul toilet.
Yeah, the worst toilet
in Scotland. To review the math.
By the way, cheap plug, we did an interview about a week or so ago with Gerard Butler, who actually was part of a stage version of Train Spotting. We talked to him about that. He had some great details.
As well as comments about his new and totally ridiculous movie.
Ridiculous in a ridiculous way.
In a ridiculous way. Lund, if you ever want
Shout out to Ben Lyons, who we saw that with. If you want
to see someone stab lots of bad people, go see London.
I will tweet out that interview, by the way, at Cam Brothers. Pretty fun listen.
All right, so just to review the math here, go to tankathon.com. I know I've got Alan Slewa hooked on it, and it will break it all down for you. With the second worst record in the NBA, the Lakers have a 55.8% chance of keeping their top 3 pick. Should they improve to having the third worst record, means they'd have to catch Phoenix or, I guess, Brooklyn. Phoenix with 18 wins. Brooklyn beat Philadelphia tonight. They now have 19 wins. That would drop their odds to 46.9%. So it's a difference of about 8% in terms of keeping the top pick. That, so it's about a 15. They have about a 15 or 16% better chance of keeping the pick as the second worst team as opposed to the third. It's not insignificant, but Andy, as we've talked about, it's also not such a big number that if they did win a bunch of games down the stretch because the young guys were playing well, had they won tonight because Russell Randall Clarkson get him back in the game, that wouldn't be so bad.
Look, if you are a Laker fan who wants to see the team make a big splash in the offseason, whether you're talking about Kevin Durant, who I think is wholly unrealistic, but maybe somebody like Harrison Barnes. You want to maybe entice Harrison Barnes to sign a big offer sheet that the Warriors decide not to match. The only reason a guy like Barnes or Durant or any free agent that you want is going to end up joining this team, unless it's just a total money grab, it's because they feel like they're going to be in a position to win. And the only way they're going to feel like they're going to be in a position to win relatively quickly is if they see evidence of the kids playing well or maybe even securing some wins. I don't think it's going to happen that often this season that you need to worry about it. But if it does happen, at least there's some potential positive byproduct.
And I know you guys were talking about this afternoon when you were filling in for Max on Max and Marcellus, and people say, oh, they don't see it, they don't watch. You are absolutely 100% wrong if you think guys around the NBA, they all watch NBA TV, they all watch SportsCenter, they all watch these shows. Most of these guys are basketball junkies who sit around and do nothing but watch basketball. They follow it closely or whatever. And if you see enough highlights over the course of the year, last 3 weeks, last month, whatever they got left now, of Russell, Clarkson, Randall hitting some game winners, leading them down the stretch, people will notice that.
And the pick is even more important because let's say these players like Kevin Durant stays at Oklahoma City Thunder, or Harrison Barnes decides, you know what, I'm going to keep trying to win championships at the Golden State Warriors.
So you would like me to engage the hypothetical that those players might choose not to join the Lakers.
And the reality, Brian, the reality is the Lakers have to just rebuild. And that could be the position that they're in for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, which, you know, one of the points that I've been trying to emphasize is they may walk away this offseason and have all that money and still not get players that they thought at this point they might have a shot at. They might have to get Tier 3 players. Some of these players they might have to overpay for. But at the end of the day...
You're really selling the offseason here, Alan.
But here's the reality, Brian. It's not a bad thing. It just could be the reality that the Lakers are just rebuilding. And this happens with organizations. And if they have 3 young players that we think has some, potential, and then Larry Nance Jr. on top of that, and then they end up with a top 2 pick, let's just say hypothetically, and decide they want to trade it, keep it, whatever the case is, then they're starting to acquire some assets that it's not the end of the world.
Hey, maybe they traded for Boogie Cousins. He seems to want out.
You're not
ready for
you're
a
not
change of
wrong,
scenery.
Alan. It's just, but there are probably 10 or 15 cars that just drove themselves into the median on the 101. But
God
that's
bless them.
Look, maybe the team doesn't look ready to win right now, but you talk to some of these free agents about the opportunities they may have in Hollywood, maybe be a part of some movies, things like that. That's how you sell these guys.
Kevin,
by the way,
would you like to be in a movie, a motion picture? I was in a little something called Thunderstruck. Oh. Ha-cha-cha.
Maybe let them know there are some branding opportunities in L.A. It's a bigger market.
Would you like to be on a billboard in a big city like Los Angeles? Reggie in Santa Monica. Would you like to be on the State Farm postgame show? Ha-cha-cha-cha. Reggie, you're on the air.
Okay. Hi, guys. 2 questions for you. 2 quick questions and then a comment. When Byron Scott called a time, with 4-7 seconds left in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
What was that for?
Andy, you actually asked him this question. It was asked
I didn't ask him. It was asked him. Basically, it was a brain cramp. It's my understanding Byron thought he might be in a position to advance the ball. That's why he called the timeout. He admitted he messed up.
All right. Second question.
I don't think it cost him the game.
Second question is, do you think Byron's going to be there next year?
And that's a good one. And Reggie, thanks for calling. Thank you for hanging on as long as you did.
While apparently not listening.
Look, after
we got into all that. I'm just saying.
It's true.
This is very well-worn
because he was on hold. On hold while we were going through that. So definitely he put his phone on mute and went and did his laundry.
It is possible we changed our minds. But do you think he is back? I mean, there's the difference between should and do you think he is. And the should is we've spent a lot of time on. And we did break down why they might want to hold on to him because of the front office and all that. But predictions, do you think he'll be back?
I actually think he's going to be back.
Mm-hmm.
It's starting to seem right now like the Lakers want to give him one full season without Kobe on the books. One full season where really it is about the kids, and I guess maybe
no protected pick,
right?
Nothing.
Maybe time all of this towards the clock that Jim Buss put himself under, and just let the chips fall where they may. The flip side is though the Lakers are only, as is my understanding, they are only paying one head coach right now, and that's low for them. They typically like to pay 2, sometimes 3 at a
4
time.
on payroll.
So the only way to make that happen right now is to fire Byron and bring somebody new in.
Are any of the Mikes available? I mean, they had a good run. Mike Brown, Mike
If I am
D'Antoni.
Mike Brown, I never work another day the rest of my life. He has banked more money getting fired than I will ever
Mike
earn.
Brown, you may not be able to work another.
I'm just saying, the man has made more money off getting fired and being told go away, just collect the check, than I will ever make in the next 5 lifetimes.
But you know, when they fired Mike Brown and hired Mike D'Antoni, and then they fired Mike D'Antoni and brought Mike Dunleavy in for the interview, he's like, I got this. This is my gig, and he didn't get it.
That's such a weird.
Why you guys?
This
I
might
don't know why
be.
they tried to change the system that they've got.
This might be more me hoping that this is the scenario, and I know you want me to differentiate that. I think they're going to have a new coach. I don't know who the coach is going to be, but I would not be surprised that come this offseason, as Kobe retires, kind of Byron was brought in to let Byron or let Kobe go off 20 years in the NBA, that they'll start off with a clean slate. They'll get some kind of coach that they feel can teach the young kids, maybe can relate to the young kids a little bit more, because that's who's going to be on this roster for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
You know what? You would be, I think, 100% correct, except for the fact that there's this clock. I think the clock complicates everything.
I think the clock complicates it. I think the injection of this option year in New York for Phil starts to complicate it as much as I think it should.
And it's a much bigger
completely
problem.
agree with Andy that A, you got to stop trying to get the band back together. B, you do have a problem where the relationship between Phil and Jeannie, not that I would suspect either one of them would have the wrong motives or whatever, but if things aren't working out, if there are changes that need to be made, it's just it is as awkward a setup as
Andy,
you
that's
can
scary. If that's a real
have.
story, and not to rebuke it by any sense, but if there's some
Why are
real
you calling
meat,
Howard Beck a liar, Alan?
And he's reporting sort of the chatter. Like, I think a lot of this is
if there's real meat
connecting
behind
dots.
it, doesn't that
Yeah.
concern you? I mean,
Yes.
it really
Yeah.
concerns me.
Yes. Terrifies
in the sense
me.
that they're still thinking not only of Phil Jackson, but we're sitting in a position today where the Lakers can potentially take a step forward in the offseason, kind of wipe away Byron Scott, wipe away Kobe Bryant. I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's just saying turn the page and start potentially rebuilding, like a true rebuild.
Alan,
they may not do it.
You're using expressions like wipe away Kobe Bryant. It sounds like you're coming
that's
after the
probably not the right
demographic
one.
of people who hate us. I have to tell you, you should use different language around Kobe people. They're very serious about this
turning
stuff.
the page.
What I always say is, if the Lakers are this dependent on Phil Jackson to succeed, if they are this paralyzed without having Phil around, that's a bigger problem than whether they bring him back or not.
Yeah.
Like, the actual decision to bring him back becomes secondary to why the
do you
hell
want him?
can't you move on?
Right. And
why can't you succeed without
The
him?
scenario you're talking about, Alan, is the one where I wish the Lakers had gone before they hired Byron, because you could see this coming. You could see, had the Lakers embraced the reality of where they were, we're rebuilding, we have an opportunity to go with a young coach who can grow with us, Brad Stevens type guy, Quinn Snyder type guy, someone like that can kind of bring everybody up at the same time. So 3 or 4 years down the road, everybody is improved and ready to compete and all that. They didn't go that way. They stayed very much inside the box and hired Byron as a feel-good kind of thing. He's surrounded with Showtime guys at his press conference. And I mean, I hope they would go in that direction the next time around, but I'm starting to agree with Andy that I do think if I had to put my money on it right now, I think Byron is going to get one more year, so you line everything up.
And maybe that 2 years, $48 million had a lot to do with that as well, where after this season, you don't have that anymore.
Oh, the Kobe contract got Byron paid. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you're welcome.
One more thing I did for you. All right, guys. Friday night, it's
Big
all
hit.
about math. If you have a pocket protector, if you have a TI-81 graphing calculator,
You just have to split those 2 games with Phoenix. Then we're in great.
That's
we're in a
all
great
Alan's
spot.
looking for. Lose the first one, then you can go out and win that second one by as many points as you want. That's a 7:30 tip, 6 o'clock pregame show right here on ESPN LA. And, of course, we will be back afterwards to take all